بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سورة الأنعام آية number 37. قال الله تعالى: وقالوا لولا نزل عليه آية من ربه قل إن الله قادر على أن ينزل آية ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. They said, meaning the kuffar said, why is an ayah, a sign, not sent down to him? What they are referring to with this ayah is the ayah or a miracle which they have suggested that the Prophet should perform for them. They call this the ayatul iqtirah, a sign or a miracle that they suggest that the Prophet should perform. Otherwise, we know that many signs came to the Prophet. The Prophet is told to say, Qul, say, indeed Allah is qadir, has the ability to send down an ayah, any ayah that you wish, but most of them, meaning the kuffar of the Quraysh, do not know. It means to say that Allah could send down any ayah, but they would still not believe. This is the point. And when they do not believe, Allah will destroy them immediately. But most of these people do not know this reality. Meaning, this reality that even if they were given the sign that they suggested, they would still not believe. And after not believing, Allah will destroy them immediately. Whereas, otherwise, He would give them a respite and a time delay in order to believe and accept the deen of Islam. Okay, so reflecting on ayah number 37, we can take that the kuffar, they wanted to corner the Prophet so that the Prophet has no response to their challenge. So that the kuffar can say, look, we've cornered him, he has no response, therefore he's a fake. And the way they set out to do that is that they suggested that the Prophet bring forth a particular miracle of their liking. Even though Allah Jalla wa Ala can do that, but if He does bring a miracle of your liking and still you do not believe, then your destruction becomes imminent. Whereas on the other hand, at least you are given some respite to change your ways. But of course, as the ayah says, most people do not know this type of matter. They are completely oblivious to this reality. And so, by extension, we can also take that when you are giving da'wah, just as the Prophet was giving da'wah, people are also going to try to corner you by issuing challenges. So you need to be prepared for this and be patient. Try to anticipate their arguments and have your response ready. As for the signs, well, the whole Quran is a sign. That should be enough for anyone with a humble heart. You do not need any more miracles. Miracles, of course, are unmatched, and that can be said with the Quran. It is unmatched. It challenged the Arab to produce the like thereof, and they were unable to do so. Well, then that makes it a miracle. We also notice how they say, why is an ayah not sent down from his Rabb? They did not say from our Rabb, because the Rabb is only one. But they were too proud to admit that He is their Rabb. So it shows their enmity, as if they are on opposite sides. Also, we note how Allah Jalla wa Ala helps the Prophet when He tells him that Allah is able to send down any ayah. And this is also a theme that we find in the Quran, Allah Jalla wa Ala instructing the Prophet what to say. And this is how the knowledgeable person should be. He should instruct those with less knowledge than him what to say when challenged with certain ideas. We also take that the general rule for most of mankind is ignorance. Not ignorance in scientific affairs, no. Every generation has their own scientific and medical advancements. No, we're not talking about that type of ignorance. We're talking about the theological ignorance. Ignorance of the rights of Allah and knowledge of Allah Jalla wa Ala. The things which really matter. Those things which have a knock-on effect in the hereafter, forever. These matters, most people are ignorant on. So that we do not take guidance from most people in matters of theology. Ayah 38. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا طَائِرٍ يَطِيرُ بِجَنَاحَيْهِ إِلَّا أُمَمٌ أَمْثَالُكُمْ مَا فَرَّطْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ ثُمَّ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ يحشرون. He says there is not a dabba, a creature on earth. So dabba here means anything that walks or crawls on the land. Could be a human, it could be an animal or an insect. And he says neither a ta'ir, a bird, yatiru, which flies, bijanahihi, with its wings. Of course birds fly with the wings, but this is for tawqeed, for emphasis. It's like people saying, I saw with my own eyes, or I heard this with my own ears, or I wrote this book with my own hands. He says all of these animals are an ummah, they're a nation just like you. So you have the nation of humans, but you also have the nation of birds, the nation of insects, and the various nations of animals, cats and dogs. You have the nations of elephants and so on. The Prophet said in a hadith in the Sunan, لولا أن الكلاب أمة من الأمم لأمرت بقتلها فاقتلوا منها كل أسود بهيم. If it weren't for the fact that dogs are an ummah, a nation, I would order you to kill them, but rather kill from them every plain black dog. So the point here is that the Prophet does not want a whole nation to go extinct, but he has ordered only to kill the black dog, because as we know from other narrations, the black dog is a shaitan, the rebellious type. He says, Ma farratna, we have not made tafrit, meaning neglected anything from the kitab, from the book. What it refers to here is the Lawh al-Mahfuz, not the Quran, because this is the book, Lawh al-Mahfuz, which has all the qadr written down, which of course includes all the different nations of animals and so on. And then he says, then to their Rabb they will all be gathered together. And he's referring here to all of the creation. As for the jinn and mankind, then they will be taken to account for their actions, be they rewarded or punished. But there will also be justice done amongst the animals as well, such that the Prophet told us that the sheep without the horn will be able to take revenge on the sheep with the horn which butted it in this world. But after that all the animals will be turned to dust. And upon seeing this, the kafir will say, Ya laytani kuntu turaba, oh would that I were dust. Reflecting on ayah number 38, we find that there are other nations of animals who have their own peculiarities, their own ways of survival, their own methods of communication, just like humans do. One might ask, okay, so what's the point in all of this? The point is that Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling us and informing us of His creative powers, in that humans are not the only creation. There are many other diverse creations which inform you of the artistry and the creative ability of Allah Jalla wa Ala. So when you realize this, then you realize that He alone is worthy of worship. And that is the final end game, is that you worship Allah Jalla wa Ala because He is worthy of worship. We also learn an aqidah point in that in the Lawh al-Mahfuz everything is written, because Allah Jalla wa Ala told the pen to write all matters down up till Yawm al-Qiyamah. And we also learn another aqidah point of the resurrection, and that all animals, humans, jinns will all be resurrected, but only humans and jinn will be eligible to enter Jannah or Jahannam. Ayah number 39, وَالَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا سُمٌّ وَبُكْمٌ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ مَنْ يَشَأْ اللَّهُ يُضْلِلْهُ وَمَنْ يَشَأْ يَجْعَلْهُ عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. He says those who belie our ayat, so this is ayat kawniyah and shar'iyah, they are summun, sum plural of asam meaning deaf, and they are bukmun plural of abkam meaning the one who is mute, unable to speak. And the reason why he calls them deaf and mute is because if your ears do not hear the truth for what it is, and you are unable to speak the truth, then you may as well be deaf and mute, because your ears and your tongue are not functioning the way they are meant to be functioning, which is to be hearing the truth and to be speaking the truth. Fi al-dhulumat, in the darknesses, this refers to misguidance, whereas light refers to guidance. He says, whomsoever Allah wills, He misguides, and whomsoever He wills, He puts on the straight path, meaning al-Islam. So that is to say, the person practices al-Islam and is animated by the Islamic lifestyle. Reflecting on ayah number 39, we find the tragic consequences of belying the ayat of Allah Jalla wa'ala and rejecting the Quran. You become essentially deaf, and you become essentially mute, and you are in darknesses. Notice the plural, darknesses. It's like you're enveloped from all sides with darkness. So how can such a person possibly be guided? No argument can possibly make him see the truth. Such people are a lost cause. We take the vital aqidah point that Allah alone guides and misguides. Sure, we can show people the right way, but we cannot put them on the right way, on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. But Allah Jalla wa'ala can, because these are matters of the heart, and Allah controls the hearts. One might say, why would Allah Jalla wa'ala misguide somebody and then punish them? The answer is, because they are worthy of misguidance and not worthy of guidance. Guidance is a privilege, not a right. It is a privilege given to those who are humble enough to accept it. But if someone is too arrogant to accept the guidance, then such people will be misguided, and rightfully so. So this misguidance is actually a punishment for them in this world. So we find Allah Jalla wa'ala saying, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ. When they deviated, Allah deviated their hearts. And this is because they chose the deviancy and were too arrogant to humble themselves to the truth. Likewise, we read in Surah Al-Ma'idah, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُصِيبَهُمْ بِبَعْضِ ذُنُوبِهِمْ وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ لَفَاسِقُونَ. So their turning away is actually Allah punishing them for their sins. So these people are unrepentant sinners, and unrepentant sinners will not be guided. So it's all about the heart. Is the heart penitent? Is it humble? If so, such hearts will be guided. If it's other than this, then such hearts will be misguided. هذا والله أعلم.